understanding that Dr. Browder spoke on in terms of this current way, because I believe he's referring to the current way that
Yeah,
most
back
black people
right
practice
now.
Christianity,
Right.
right? So in that respect, no. If that's the case, but if you're talking about looking for a liberation theology, you could use the Bible for that purpose, but that's not the way the black church has been set up. The black church has always been set up for black people to be obedient and for black people to see themselves as being submissive to white authority.
What's going on YouTube? It's me. It's Pat. It's Professor Carl Tone Jones. So you already know what that is. Got dang on Breakdown Friday. Get your mind right. Get your pen, get your pad, get your snacks, whatever you need to get comfortable, because we about to bring it to you like we always been bringing it to you. What up, fellas?
What's good,
What's
man?
good? What's good? Man, we ready to get it in once again. How we do it on this Breakdown Fridays. So, hey, first of all, thank you to everybody who's still rocking with me out here in these streets. Everybody who's still supporting on the shoulders of giants. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're gonna continue to build. We're gonna continue to grow. We're still on our mission to get to 100,000 subscribers. So, still need you all's help getting to that. So make sure you sharing these videos, making sure you like this video, get into that comment section, and make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. So every time I put out a new video, you can know what's going on and you can view the videos and share the videos with as many people as possible. And I've been demonetized this month. So if you still want to be able to support me, that information is in the description. So make sure you check that out. And in the description is also information for Professor Carl Tone Jones's book and Patrick's book. And remember, we just finished reading Patrick's book, The Chasm. So we just finished reading that. So make sure you go check out those 8 videos. And hey, it's good information, a good breakdown on what happened
Dang, my
between
book
black men
took
and black
8
women.
videos.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
No, it ain't.
Hey,
Hey,
man,
man, don't be saying it
chunks.
like that. Don't be saying it like that. It was good information. It's 8 good episodes, 8 good pieces of information. All right, don't be saying it like that. Make it seem like I'm ESC reading. And the man said that he
Nah,
had
you're not reading it like straight up. I'm just saying. I said, I was, positive spin. Like it's a lot of information. 8
a lot
episodes.
of information in there. A lot of information. Make sure y'all check out those videos. All that is on this channel. All right, let's get to it though. This week we're breaking down Anthony T. Browder. And it's a conversation, or he's answering a question within the conversation from a young lady. And the basic question that's being posed is, can we find liberation through religion? You know, black people, we some religious, very, very, very religious people. So the question on the table and the focus for this is, can we find liberation through religion? So I'm gonna play the audio. You're gonna hear. Of course, you know how we do. We're gonna let some play, then we're gonna stop. We're gonna break it down as we go. So let's do it.
Spiritual oppression? Is it possible to follow European Christianity and also be spiritually liberated? Are they even mutually exclusive? What advice do you have in regards to basically our spiritual liberation? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good question. So I'll refer to what Dr. John Henry Clark often said, that if you are an African person and you choose to be a Christian, then find the Africanness within Christianity. If you're an African person and you choose to be a Muslim, then find the African roots of Islam and be true to that. My perspective is that personally, I don't see how it's possible to follow the same religious traditions of the same people who stole my ancestors and enslaved my ancestors in the name of their God, and who continue to oppress us. If Christians were true to their 10 commandments, then we would be having this conversation under a mango tree in Africa right now.
I want to stop it right there. Deal with that first piece of it. The question is, like I said, the whole theme: can we find liberation through religion? And specifically, because she was talking specifically about Christianity. So we're going to deal with that right now. He's going to expand as we go, but we're going to deal with that right now. Specifically, the Christianity, especially the Christianity that was given to us through slavery. Can black people in the West, or even black people in America, to be more specific, find liberation through religion? I'm along the same page of Dr. Browder. I don't think this modern form, or this form of Christianity that we have, that was given to us, that we've adopted and passed down from generations to generations. I don't think the way we consume it is fruitful enough to produce liberation. Now, as I'm saying that, as I was about to say, overall, I don't think it could lead to liberation. I did think about Nat Turner. So that's one thing I am thinking about, because Nat Turner was once he got a chance to read the Bible for himself, he said he was inspired by God to rebel. And so now that's one example. And I know there are some other examples of people who through religion was inspired to lead rebellions. But overall, in this form of Christianity, the way we practice Christianity today in 2022, I don't believe we can find liberation as black people in America through the way black people worship today. Because one of the continuous actions that we do see from black people who follow Christianity, in this modern form of Christianity, is people being docile, people being overly forgiving, people finding a way to make excuses, or to try to turn the other cheek to your enemy, to your oppressors, to somebody that's continuing to put their foot on your neck, to somebody continuing to put their foot in your ass. And so what I'm seeing from these communities, and what I'm seeing from these people specifically who follow Christianity in 20, and especially nowadays, is the way black people are practicing the religion. I'm not seeing how somebody will come out of that with a mindset, or even with energy or willpower to uplift the entire race, because it seems like they're gonna, from the actions that people keep displaying, it seems like they're gonna find a way to make excuses for white people, or forgive white people for what they're doing, and try to be on this brotherhood, sisterhood thing, and find that one piece of the things that Dr. King said to bring everybody together. So I just don't think we can. Basically what I'm saying. So what you think, PC?
Well, it's funny, right? Because when you mentioned that, I thought back to Dylan Roof. When Dylan Roof went to the church, and a church in South Carolina, in Charleston, and shot up all the parishioners, including the pastor. I can't recall the pastor's name right now, but that pastor was practicing he was preaching in the church that Denmark Vesey founded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to Denmark Vesey, he was a liberator for black people during the time of slavery, fresh off the Haitian Revolution, ironically, right? So they had a term called Black Liberation Theology, where it took different rebellions in the Bible and utilized it towards incentivizing black people to seek their freedom through that particular purpose. So I agree with the initial understanding that Dr. Browder spoke on, in terms of this current way, because I believe he's referring to the current way that most black people practice
right now.
Christianity.
Right.
Right. So in that respect, no. if that's the case, but if you're talking about looking for a liberation theology, you could use the Bible for that purpose, but that's not the way the black church has been set up. The black church has always been set up for black people to be obedient, and for black people to see themselves as being submissive to white authority. And even for it's only within the last like 50 years that black people even identified with the possibility that the figure Jesus Christ that's been labeled as the savior in the Bible actually had African origins and would accept the black picture of him. And if you can't see God in your image, and you see God through the image of your oppressor, then rebelling against your oppression is akin to rebelling against God. In regards to just the psychological twist that it plays, the subconscious and the cognitive dissonance that it places in us. So that's pretty much how I want to go. I wanted to go in a totally different direction, but we'd be talking for another hour if I spoke on that. But I do think that, so going back to the African origins, yeah, if you go back to the African origins of Christianity, then yeah, but not in this current way that, Black people celebrate this whole notion of Christianity. I get tired of seeing old movies or television shows that refer to Black people dealing with either Jim Crow or Black people in bondage and chains. And there's this ceremony, this cinematic moment where they all start humming and singing as though that's going to be what's the power of the Black spirit is through song and through all these other, meaningless and nonviolent measures to deal with, whatever punishments that they're going through or dealing with at that time. So,
Yeah.
I digress.
About you, Pat?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm big on like terminology, precision of language, and stuff like that.
Let's get it, Technical Ted. I was hoping Technical Ted show up tonight. Let's do it.
Well, I would just say this isn't, because we oftentimes say Black people in America are subscribed to European Christianity, and that's not exactly true. European Christianity are those people that stormed the White House after they believed Donald Trump had the election stolen from him. European Christianity are those people that believe that Black people should still be in bondage and enslaved, and there's a moral righteousness even amongst those people on the left that practice European Christianity and the self-righteousness of their cause, heaven's mandate, things like that. That's European Christianity. We don't practice that. We never got that. What we got was Black slave Christianity. And that's what we're moving forward with. And those are two different animals. And I feel like we do it. We really miss the boat when we keep saying that, because it draws this connection, this illogical and erroneous connection between what we believe and what white people believe. And then we get into these debates about saying things like, well, we keep doing what the white people do. No, we don't. We're not doing what they do at all. Not even remotely close. But I agree with PC and with Dr. Browder said. Is he Dr. Browder?
Yeah.
Gonna be tonight.
Yeah.
I agree with what they both said with regards to finding the root of it. And for me, you don't even have to dig that deep. Just open the fucking book and read it. Like the Bible has a number of things right there in the text. One of the ones that I love is I believe it's in the book of Matthew. It talks about getting the plank out of your own eye so that you can see clearly to remove the plank out of your brother's eye, which to me, that is amazing, because as we combat racism, PC and I was having this conversation earlier today. Black people have a strong affinity for implicit bias and negative reactions to other Black people, even in the pro-Black community. And one of the reasons why I think we struggle with dealing with the shit is because people think accepting Black people as being great at some point in history is all the work that's required to remove the negative stereotypes that have been ingrained in you. So we can't even see racism and the challenges we're facing clearly, because we don't realize that our vision is still clouded by the very racism that we fighting. So You know what I'm saying? So you get in the conversation. There are tons of things right there in the book that if we just opened it up and read it with the proper well, first off, just open it up and read it. Let's start there, right? Because too many black Christians have not even read the Bible. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to Christians and I mentioned what I thought was a widely known and common parable of Job, the story of Job, and they like, well, that's that in the Bible. It's a whole book dedicated to it, man. Wow. So so let's just start with reading the book, right? And then you go into it with a mindset of as a black person in America, what can I pull out of this? I mean, I treat the Bible just like I treat any other book. What can I get out of this? But I agree with you as well, Joe. Everybody's pretty much in agreement. If we continue to practice Christianity the way we're practicing it right now, which is not Christianity, in my opinion, it's some sort of weird ass KY jelly lubricated bend over ass cheek spread and invite them in type of worship behavior. As long as we continue to do that, then no, it's not. It's not possible. It's not possible.
I mean, how can you worship in a way that allows you to invite the devil into your house? Because Dylan Roof is just one of many situations where black people invited white folk or allowed white folk to cross the threshold, and they did harm to black people in the house of God.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a doctrine of forgiveness to white people. It's a doctrine of matter of fact, it's a doctrine of forgiveness to everybody who is not black.
Yeah, and just one more thing real quick too, because I think, Pat, you brought up something real important. Black people don't read the Bible in the church. They go by the passages that are told to them for each particular sermon, which skips and hops and jumps all over the Bible, which is just as though it was on the plantation. And it tells black people to be just as docile now as it told black people to be docile back then. It doesn't serve any purpose except to build up the church and the church fund and all that other stuff, but it runs off anybody that has a spirit to stand up to, the atrocities that black people face on a day-to-day basis.
I'm not saying this is 100%, but when's the last time you've seen, especially black church religious leaders, leading people or standing up for what's right, or standing up for black people, standing up against white supremacy and risking all their benefits to stand up against white supremacy?
April 4th, 1968, the day Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Say that date again.
April 4th, 1968,
okay.
The day Martin Luther King was assassinated.
All right, let's keep moving. Yes, yeah.
Thou shalt not steal, huh? They stole over 100 million people. So let's be clear, since you said that we are at war, and religion is a tool of war. Christianity is a religion that has murdered millions and millions of people over thousands of years. Islam is also guilty of murdering millions and millions of people. So I have a problem with that. I have a problem with people coming into my home and enslaving my people simply because we call the Creator by a different name. I feel very seriously that every people have the right to identify with the Creator as seen through their own cultural lens, and nobody has the right to come into your home and destroy you, enslave you, simply because you call the Creator by a different name. So one's relationship with your Creator should be reflected in the quality of your life.
Okay, so I hear what he's saying. In ideal practice, yes, your behavior, your morals, how you see the world, how you treat people should be aligned with the Creator that you serve. In an idealistic world, but in the world we live in, because when he's saying that, I'm just thinking about the difference in ideologies when it comes to the actual practice of religion, from people who are terrorists and conquerors, and from people who have been conquered. I think I hear what he's saying, and I don't disagree. But I think, once again, the experiences that we've had versus the experiences that white people have had. White people don't view or use religion the same way we do.
Right.
They don't give a damn about that moral stuff. Because if they, once again, like he just said, if morals really mattered, if all that we're trying to make it to eternity stuff really mattered, we wouldn't be here. So think about it. They use religion as a tool to reinforce their domination, to help them further enslave the different people that they came across. Because it wasn't just black people, it was the indigenous people in the Americas as well. They use religion to further enslave people. So I just, and I'm not disagreeing with nothing he's saying, but I do want people to think about this from a mind state of understanding your enemies. White people don't give a damn about religion the same way we do. Like I just said, they use what they need to use to dominate. Just going back to, like we talked about a couple of shows ago, when Charlemagne and Charlemagne did it too, but Constantine, Constantine became a Christian to conquer Christians. Charlemagne also used Christianity as well, but particularly Constantine became a Christian to conquer Christians because he saw it was a better tool. It was better to use it was basically he was using honey instead of vinegar to get what he needed. And Christianity was the right tool. People have understood over the years how to use religion. So I want us to get it clear. Stop going to this, because like he just said, this is war. If we're gonna continue to say this is war, we're gonna go in and look at it as if it's war. Understand your enemies, and your enemies don't give a damn about religion the same way you do. They will use it and anything else to gain domination and to keep domination. Just remember that. Anybody want to add?
Go ahead, Pat.
No, I'm gonna agree with that, and I'm also gonna challenge the view that black people have of Christianity, because the view that we have, let's talk about this word forgiveness, because Joe, you mentioned it a lot in the last bit. There, because of a lack of reading the Bible, we're gonna go back to that, and this is gonna be a recurring theme throughout the show for me. Because of a lack of actually reading the book, there is a failure to understand what forgiveness actually is.
School is
and forgiveness is not oh, you slapped me in the face, I forgive you for doing that, and we just gonna act like it didn't happen. Like, that's not forgiveness. That's stupidity. That's ignorance. That's casting your pearls to swine.
Mm-hmm.
And those, that's a biblical reference. Casting your pearls to swine. It says don't do that. The black people that you always see on the news talking about, I forgive them, I forgive. First off, there's no need for the public proclamation. The forgiveness that you're giving this person is not really for them, it's for you. So you don't have to proclaim it. It's to free you up, because the Bible says revenge is mine, not yours. You're believing that God is going to are going to avenge the injustice for you, so you release yourself from that vengeful heart.
Preach, brother.
That
preach.
will lead to anger, misdeeds, and everything else. That's all fine and dandy, but nowhere in there does it say this white man came into church and shot up 45 people, and we forgave him and let him into the very next church the very next week. That's not forgiveness. That's stupid. So I think we got to have a different conversation about what the elements of the Bible actually mean, and then we also have to have the strength to actually live by those elements. The Bible is very much a wartime book. How many times in the Old Testament did God send his tribes to war and told them to wipe out everybody?
The whole time. They was fighting the whole time.
Right.
He sent the angels.
Right.
To smite whole towns.
No, he flooded the whole world.
It's very much a wartime book. And that's why I said again, if you just open the book everything you're looking for is in there. You just got to read it within the proper context and with the proper frame of mind. The biggest problem we having is nobody's reading it, and that sort of ignorance continues to be propagated. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I went
people
off
got that.
subject, but the
So you
forgiveness
saying
piece
people got
kinda-
that IL?
Yes, people. You know what? I'm
IL,
still on the train to calcified frontal lobes. That's what.
calcified frontal lobes, and
Yeah,
intellectual laziness lead to a lot of diarrhea of the mouth.
they got CFL.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was gonna write some things down because you made some good points, Pat. You and Joe. One of the things, and I'm gonna come back to something you said, Joe, before. You said that white folk don't practice, the same moral value system, the same Christian moral value system that black people follow. But I have to disagree on one part of that. I think they follow the morals that maintain their supremacy and maintain their power, because their morals is about survival, not just survival for them, but dominance over everybody else. And they do whatever's necessary, it's by any means necessary. In other words, Malcolm said it, they believe it more than we do. And because of that, I think black people are very comfortable hiding in this idea of Christian moral values, being the bigger person, because ideally speaking, this gives us permission to morally be cowards. And you get to hide behind the moralities of saying vengeance will be God's. Well, then, when it came to the wars and the different wars in the Bible, God sent his people to war.
Mm-hmm.
So the people became the hand of God to strike that vengeance, to impose that vengeance. And so, but when you look at how we see it, we think, oh, I'm going to pray or I'm going to sing.
Give it to God.
While everybody else is wreaking havoc and mayhem to maintain their power, too many of us utilize the church and the ways of the black church, be specific about that, so that we can castigate or shame one another, pillage and blame one another without taking our proper space or proper vengeance out on those who have done harm against us. Eye for an eye. Or how about this? Faith without works is dead. These are all sayings from the Bible that we choose to ignore. We prefer to say turn the other cheek. And for which, that carries no value for us in terms of survival, seeking validation from a life or in paradise beyond this world. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, everybody else gets to have their paradise here, and they'll fight you. Right. They'll fight they're willing to shed blood, and they're willing to shed your blood for the right to maintain power and dominance here for their paradise. And we choose to live in squalor many a times because it's safer than actually doing. Because morally speaking, the first form of morality is to make sure that your people are safe and protected, and to make sure that your people will proliferate to the next evolution of whatever your people are supposed to be. That's the moral code that we should be under. That's the moral code everybody else is under.
See, remember, that's not going to happen, because I'm with you. But that's not going to happen, because even if we look at the congregation continues to follow people who continue to prove that they shouldn't be followed. The congregation continues to follow pastors who continue to mess up in public. The congregation makes excuses for these failed leaders and the continued failed leadership, coupled with this docile doctrine that's continued to be preached Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, especially from preachers who are compromised. Like who was Al Sharpton just got through admitting that he would work for the FBI, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, yeah. And he's a reverend, right? He was leading people, right? And you working for the FBI. So yeah. And now people know black people gonna make excuses and still follow him. Like we local preachers here in Tallahassee can't keep their meat in their pants, keep getting caught. People keep making excuses for him.
Mhm.
Hell no, we can't. Black people in America not gonna find no type of liberation through the current way we use Christianity specifically. Hell nah, because the people who following crazy as hell and the people who supposed to be leaders crazy as hell. Let's just call it how it is.
Hold on, because he also spoke too about another truthism that a lot of us don't really tackle, and that's the history of Islam
Oh yeah.
and what that meant to black people and the refusal of black people to acknowledge that even in this day and time, there's modern day slavery in Northern Africa as we speak,
Yep.
where
Yep.
black Africans are being sold. They're in chains and bondage. And that's the responsibility that the Islamic community has not, the black Islamic community has yet to address. And I know we might get some hate mail for this one,
I
but I
mean, but
think that once again, it speaks to cowardice of black people. Attack me all you want for saying it, but also make sure you address the fact that it's still being done in countries like Yemen or countries like Libya. You know what I'm saying? It's still being done.
what
And no black Africans are mounting a push or movement or even calling it out, not to my knowledge anyway. The destructive nature of the black communities over there. You know what I'm saying? So that's something else we have to deal with as well. I mean, all of these philosophies and all these religions that continually cannibalize black people need to be exposed, and the response or lack thereof needs to be called out as well.
yeah. I mean, you're right. No religion is free of this. No religion is I don't see any of these religions, especially being something that black people can properly use to get where we need to be, because all of all of them, for the most part, in the modern world, was given to us, especially in the beginning, was given to us by force. Islam was spread through the sword, just like Judaism, just like Christianity, all spread through the sword, spread through Africa through force.
Yeah.
So we know that. That's documented. So
That's it.
yeah, all right, let's move forward though.
So if you are struggling, if you are struggling economically, socially, mentally, then you need to reevaluate the God that you worship. And one of the other things that we fail to understand, particularly with regards to Christianity, and I mentioned this on Tuesday, the very first slave ship was called the slave ship Jesus. Very first slave ship. Every slave dungeon in Africa, there are approximately 122 slave dungeons on the west coast of Africa between Senegal and the Cameroon. Every one of those slave dungeons have a church on that property, right? And as Alex Haley documented in his book, Roots, that when the European enslavers loaded the Africans onto the slave ships, they would often record in their ship's log that the first two people on board the slave ships were typically a man and a woman who were listed in the ship's log as Adam and Eve.
That's what he's explaining is a perfect example of Europeans using Christianity as a tool. They see it as a tool. They use it as a tool. There's a church right next to every slave dungeon. I'm sure somebody was praying over the slave, like the Pope decreed. The Pope put out the decree and blessed and gave the word for slavery to happen. The Pope. These folk don't look at this stuff the same way we do. We got to get off. We got to get off the boo boo, man. We got to get off the bullshit, man. Stop looking at the world through our eyes. Stop expecting everybody else to see the world through our eyes. It doesn't matter the religion. It doesn't matter. These people will use religions as tools for domination.
Hmm?
The example he just gave you the example. That's one of the great things about history if you're really paying attention. The breadcrumbs, the puzzle pieces, when you put them together and you get that aha moment, you're like, damn, it's been right in front of our faces the whole time. Like Pat keeps saying, we got to read, and we got to read to comprehend. Put your damn phones down, except to watch these videos and watch other videos that you're learning from. But get off your phones. Get from in front of the TV. Pull out these books and read. Read the information. These people are telling you how they exist. They're telling you how they think. They're telling you how they live. They're telling you how they see us. They're telling you this. And we're not reading. The information is right there. And we're not paying attention because we distracted, because we have to be entertained. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, right? Because, you know, just like people we learn about the missionaries and how the missionaries were sent in to particular countries, specifically after they were
Right.
dominated or overthrown by European powers. And we hear about the missionaries going in to change or sort of like bring religion bring God to the godless. Right.
30 years before the thing happened.
Right. What you say? Say that again.
Like there's like in the book, things fall apart. Like they were talking about how the missionaries will come in like 30 years before the actual warfare come in, because they're coming in under the guise of religion, but it's a reconnaissance mission.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't talk about the terrorists. I forget what they're called, but when the Knights Templars were sent in to bring Christ or bring Christianity to all these different places. No, it was brought in to bring riches to the Roman Church, the Roman Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? All these different vessels and things of that nature. I find it interesting that the churches were built right next to all of the dungeons, right? I find it interesting that because when you look into the Black communities right now, you'll have, there's some places in Philadelphia where we have about 8 or 9 churches on one block. You know what I'm saying? Or some denomination or another on one block. And but those neighborhoods are falling apart. Those neighborhoods are like dungeons when you think about the state of the community. There are people who are afraid to live in those neighborhoods, but they'll go to that church and step over homeless people. Sometimes you'll walk past people who are dead on the street, but you think they're homeless. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the visual that I got from him saying that. It just brings me to how the breakdown of the community and how we'll continuously look past all the wrong things that are going on. I mean, think about it. It was like 5 years ago, they were talking about the church brings in $26 billion a year. And think about how much money goes into the church. But if we took that money to put that and we were able to put that money into programs or communities that need, grassroots functions and operations that needed it to build, what a difference it would make in our community. You know what I'm saying? It's just wild, man. I'm done.
No, I mean, I think you and Joe are hitting a lot of the historical and moral points. So I'm gonna stay in my lane of like, all right, let's take it back to the goddamn book that we all keep claiming that we followers of. Because again, like, and I know we said like in the last bit we were talking about how the Bible, there were a lot of wars and people, because this is another example of how people don't read the book. A lot of the wars and stuff were in the Old Testament, and you hear lots of Black people, including grandmas and grandpas that have been in the church damn near all their life, saying that Jesus came and he abolished the Old Testament. Jesus himself said in the New Testament, I believe it's the book of Matthew, said, I did not come to abolish what was or change one dot in the law. He didn't come to abolish all of that. He came to present a new way of being a Christian. But that way wasn't being a bitch.
Yeah, he was not that.
Right. Like,
At all.
so even when we're talking about the eye for an eye, and the turn the other cheek, or don't turn, turn the other cheek. If someone slaps you across the face, turn and let them slap the other side. Like, you got to understand that in context. And I could be wrong, but here's what I understood in my time training to become one of the people that spread these narratives. That's a pastor, y'all. Anyways,
Hallelujah. Pastor Pat.
look, during the time they were existing in a period of time where it was customary and expected for any personal offense, any personal slight, attack, invasion of character, physical, mental, or moral, person to person, would result in an altercation. And that altercation could result in somebody losing their life. We know them in the European societies as duels, right? You've impugned my character, sir. Let us duel. And they pull a gun out, they shoot each other, and they die. Right? What Jesus was saying was not as a community, all of y'all need to be bitches. No. What he was saying was, as individuals existing in a community, you should not let small offenses cause you to go to war or cause you to take the life or do harm to your brother. Damn, that sounds a lot like what we say in the community when we say, why are these two brat brothers shooting each other out? Because somebody stepped on somebody else's sneakers.
Oh, time out.
Go ahead.
Time out. Do you all not see the irony in what you just said?
I see.
Bruh, think about the irony in what you just said. You just explained that the eye for an eye thing, whatever, I can't remember all the words. I just went out my mind just that quick. But we should not ride against each other over small offenses. The irony in that is we forgive white people for grave offenses against us, but we ride against each other for small offenses.
Mhm.
Black people kill black people for stepping on their shoes, but black people forgive white people for killing their family members. That's
And
the irony.
and this is again where I go back to, and again, this is what I gathered from the instructions that I received while I was in training to be a pastor. There's a misunderstanding of what that means because there's a missing contextual piece of the environment that was being spoken of, which is why it is also true that you can't be a true Christian and not be a historian as well. It is impossible because the book was written over 2,000 years ago. Without understanding the context of it, you basically just on some conspiracy shit.
And
So
he's saying the Bible is not a history book.
no, it is not. And so, so we these common misconceptions, right? Jesus came to abolish the Old Testament. Jesus says in the book of Matthew, no, he didn't. These common misconceptions. You got to turn the other cheek and let him slap that one too. Yeah, that's when you in a personal situation with your brother. If somebody shoots you in the cheek, you don't turn around and let them shoot the other side with a gun too. That's called stupidity. That phrase wasn't meant to overturn murder laws. It wasn't meant to overturn systemic injustices by saying, hey, these white people enslaved us. They forcibly enslaved us. Well, we should voluntarily give them all of our children to be enslaved too. That's not what that means. But that's how we've come to interpret it. Again, open the book, read the book, and then open some other books written in the time period that this book was written in, or at least the book that you're reading out of this book, which is a conglomerate of other books, and then gain some context on the words in the book.
So you're saying the Bible was the first, was like the first mixtape?
It actually was. Got
Well, the
all of the
word
best writers. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the word Bible actually means story. I believe in Hebrew. Am I not? I know. Believe is story, and it's a book of stories. It's a book of cautionary tales and parables and lessons to be learned based on historical times. You
So you
know,
saying myths?
remix. Put that sound
That
effect
sounds
in
the
there,
same
Joe.
to me.
So it's but to go back to what Pat was saying, because I believe that this book, Christ himself, would have been in these churches today fighting with the pastors that claim to be preaching in his name. Fist
I believe
fighting.
that.
Him and his homies, his disciples, would have been on stage. Gotta watch Judas, but would have been on stage. There's a Judas in every crowd, ironically. And they would have been they would have been going to fist. It would have been like watching KRS-One go up on the stage, sucker punch somebody, snatch the mic, and do still number one. It'd have been, but what we've been seeing going on, and the irony is there's two figures that are really iconic, like with the church. There's the figure of the greedy pastor, and then there's the figure of the old black lady who believes everything he says and will give him every penny and will, shame you if you speak anything ill of the pastor.
Well,
So the pastor gets to get away with it because he feeds and speaks to the matriarchy of the black community or the gynocracy of the black community.
well,
I want to
go ahead, Pat.
go ahead, PC. No, I want to say one other thing before you move on, Joe. But go ahead, PC.
No, you can go. That's all really I was gonna say.
No, I just wanted to say to those people that are saying two things. First thing, to those people that are saying what PC is saying, Jesus wouldn't fist fight. There's actually a biblical story of what happened when Jesus walked in the temple and saw people desecrating the temple. Not only did he fist fight, he pulled out a whip and started beating people.
He flipped over the table.
he was a real one. He was
So-
a real look, man. He was a real one.
So yes, people would be getting whipped, old school slavery style, in the church if Jesus came back. Put that on your visual. The other thing is, again, a lot of these things we talk about, turn the other cheek, eye for an eye, blah 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 blah. They're all references to a speech that Jesus gave on Mount Sinai to a group of his followers, a bunch of people in the congregation. And a lot of messages can be made about why he was telling his followers this message. And so that's where you get into the context of the situation. One was to prevent infighting amongst the group. The other one was to prevent the group from being dragged into a situation with another group that they were ill prepared for because somebody took personal offense to a slight that wasn't that big a deal. Like there are a lot of different ways that you could read into that, all of them positive if you read into it. Not all of them, but most of them positive if you read into them, with a certain mindset, the mindset that we need to have when we're reading through these things. So those are the two things I wanted to say.
So you saying in the Bible it talks about us being smart about what we're doing against each other and other people so we can get the greatest outcome and not just curling up and not just
the Bible says a lot of things about us being smart, but that's exactly what I'm saying, because let's also remember the new prophets in the Bible, their knowledge of the word got tested, not by other prophets, but by members of the congregation. If the members of the congregation are testing your knowledge, they must know what's in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what about and I can't recall the figure in particular, but there was the whole concept of I am Legion and demonic entities into the world and people thinking that they have the power to address that by themselves. You know, it's like I know Peter, I know Paul, but I don't know you. And that demon actually killed that dude. You know what I'm saying? In the Bible. You know, we keep going up against forces unequipped and unprepared, and we don't utilize critical thinking. And you know what you're speaking to with Jesus was saying was discretion. Know your enemy, know yourself. You know what I'm saying?
For
And
real?
that takes us back to African cosmology.
Hold up, the Bible emphasizes knowing your enemy and knowing yourself.
When you have a conversation, when you're speaking to the people and you're telling them to turn the other cheek because we don't need internal conflict, you know, work with your brother. That's Ubuntu. I am because we are.
Oh,
That's
okay. So because I'm slow. And so you saying to turn the other cheek was to make sure that we don't have excessive infighting amongst each other. So I need to overlook small stuff with my own people, but bang on other people who do stuff to me. That's what they saying.
Not indiscriminately bang on,
right?
But as a collective, yeah, you remember those collective slights and cultural slights, and you plan accordingly. You forgive, but you don't forget.
In other words, don't be rude. Don't let your emotions rule the day for you.
Greatly, we learned a lot. Hey, look, I'm not a Bible scholar. We learned a lot today about what actually is in the Bible. Dang, because they got us out here being soft and docile. Out here waiting on Jesus to return, being nice and getting our ass whooped by our oppressors. Dang.
You know what's funny about that? Before you move on, the same speech, if memory serves correctly, on Mount Sinai, where he talked about turn the other cheek and all this other stuff, that's also the speech where he said the meek shall inherit the earth, which is also oftentimes taken out of context to mean that bitches are gonna dominate. But that's go ahead. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, Dr. John Henry Clark always says before we move on, he says, yeah, the meek shall inherit the earth, but the strong will inherit the meek.
Right. And they also claim that if the slave ships departed the slave dungeons on the coast of West Africa on a Sunday, then God would bless their journey. So Christianity is an integral part of the enslavement of over 100 million African men, women, and children. And I also know that 800 years before Europeans came in, Christian Europeans came in and enslaved Africans. Arab Muslims were enslaving Africans. So I've got an issue with both of these oppressive religious systems. So if you're going to be a good Muslim or a good Christian, then you should be dedicating yourself to recognizing the humanity in everybody. And if you can't do that, then something is wrong with that tradition.
Hey, we found out being a good Muslim or a Christian mean dominating black people. That's what we found out. If you use it right. If you use it wrong, like black people use it, you're gonna find yourself dominated.
You know, one of the things I've heard, and I've heard this from several Muslim sisters. You know, when I've seen them and they're aggressive in their posture and things of that nature, I bring to them, I say, yo, are you truly a practitioner of your religion, of Islam? And one thing they said to me over and over again is that if you're not a Muslim man, I don't have to respect you. And I'm saying to them, you know, but you're a sister, you're black. They said it doesn't matter. You know, being a Muslim is different than being black. And, you know, and I've always wondered about that because I've seen a lot of sisters who identify being Muslim being disrespected by Arabs in corner stores.
By other Muslims?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've often wondered, like, how does that work? Because I've never seen it confronted. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I've never seen it confronted. So, you know, I'm challenging the Muslim brothers to, you know, speak to that. And if it has been confronted, then let me know, because I've never seen that confronted. But I do know that those particular situations take place.
That's what happened when you put your religion before your race.
Yeah.
What in Islam they're kind of groomed to.
Well, hey. You see the results. You're getting the same results the Christians getting.
And I find it ironic too that when at least in this part of the world, there has been like a resolution for African spirituality. The meeting that took place in Haiti with the different tribes of Africa, there was a resolution to recognize and the sacrifice for the dishonorable actions of a lot of Africans, who disgraced, their purpose spiritually. And that's how he came up with the system of voodoo. And I think a lot of people, it's a very interesting thing that the first horror films and the first works of horror genre were based in discrediting voodoo as an evil, immoral spiritual practice in league with, dark forces. But it chose to make the Christian, the hero, God's people. And therefore, when going up against vampires and things of that nature, all you needed was holy water and the cross. You know what I'm saying?
Some garlic.
Right. Yeah, well, the garlic. And I don't even know, is the garlic in holy water? Like, do they dip the holy water, like garlic in some holy water?
I don't know.
I don't know. Where the garlic played a role in that. I did like when Blade used it, but
Mace.
It just amazes me how, and I'll go back to something that what's the name? Charles Manson said. Charles Manson said that black people have been studied by white folk for a long time. And the one thing they understood is that black people are genetically engineered to be motivated more so by fear because of their heightened spirituality and their spiritual connectiveness to nature and their spiritual connectiveness to God. And the biggest factor they can utilize against black people is indoctrinating black people with fear of Christ, fear of death, fear of white people, what it comes down to. And fear seems to be the primary motivator behind all things in the black community at this point.
Hey, well, people got a fear going to hell. Black people.
But they don't mind living in hell.
Well, see, now you're trying to make sense, PC, and I'm mad at you for that. Trying to make sense and stuff, because it's like, think about it though. Black people are stuck on the idea of going to heaven at the cost of getting our asses kicked every day in real life, because there's going to be a better day when we die, but we're gonna get stepped on while we're here. But nobody else is living like that. Nobody else is thinking like that. Only us. And we have convinced ourselves that our way of living, believing, and worshiping is the way. It's the only way. Even though we keep getting no real tangible results. No matter the religion we choose, whether it's, especially under the Judeo-Christian umbrella, whether it's Judaism, because we see it now, social media, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam, we're not getting any real results other than further belief or further confirmation. And I'm not going to challenge anybody's experiences or whatever they want to call it with their spiritual system or their encounters with deities or whatever they believe happened to them. Whatever messages, I'm not here to challenge that. What I am here to say though is your results didn't happen. Our results didn't happen. Because think about it. Now, let's think about this. The same God who was asleep during slavery. I'm just saying he had to be asleep. Either he was asleep or he was on commercial break. He went to use the bathroom or something happened, because during slavery in America, I think God missed that. And like all the continued slavery before that and the continued slavery after that, and like talking about the Arab slave trade and all these different slave trades.
No, Joe, he let it happen. He didn't miss it. He just allowed it.
Oh, okay. So, but that God is still supposed to save us though. That's the one that's coming back for us though, right?
Well, because we weren't in alignment. Well, one,
Oh,
right? You got to keep this in mind, right? A lot of black people don't believe that black people are the chosen people. So our
oh, you have to
enslavement
be
doesn't
chosen.
matter.
So
Yeah,
you have to be.
we
So
weren't the
why we
chosen
following it?
people.
So why we following the religion if we ain't
Be-
chosen?
because there's only one God, and you just can't help that you're not his favorite, but you can still gain his favor.
Oh, so like Dr. Clark said, he's a bigot.
Nah, he not a bigot. He not closed-minded. He might be racist, but he not bigoted.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. The racist God. Gotcha.
I think we really, when we partnered up, when our ancestors partnered up with this devil, we got served to the devil. And we got served to the devil on the devil's platter. And I'm not talking about all our ancestors, but way too many got compromised. And we weren't, and they weren't strong enough to fight off this devil. This war, this is an ancient war that's been going on for thousands of years. And we fell asleep at the wheel. But it's like, we go back to that one saying, I forget the book it's out of, but like I said, faith without works is dead. And we keep praying for a solution instead of being the answer to our own prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And because we refuse to be the answer to our own prayers, it's like that story that said, man was standing on top of his house in a flood. And he was he begged for God to come rescue him. So God came by with a boat. He said, no, I'm waiting on God. A little while later, another person came by with a helicopter. Said, I'm waiting on God. And then somebody, I believe, came by with like an airplane. He said, nah, I'm waiting on God. The man ended up drowning, going to heaven.
Right.
And he said, God, why did you forsake me? And God said, what do you mean? He said, you let me drown. And God said, I sent a helicopter, a boat, and an airplane to come rescue you. Why did you deny me? And the man didn't have any questions. You know what I'm saying?
No, we know why he denied him.
Because he didn't look like white Jesus.
Because God was trying to get him to go 50-50, and he wanted God to pay all the bills.
He was a modern man.
That's a joke, y'all. That's a joke.
Gotcha.
Relax.
No, but I guess because God didn't look like white Jesus, so he didn't. But it's a great metaphor, because clearly black people are looking for this pristine being to come save us, and because I mean, a parallel I use is everybody mad at Deion Sanders for leaving Jackson State, like you didn't know he wasn't gonna leave, like you had no idea he wasn't gonna leave when he got there, right? Yeah, did I want him to stay? Yeah, but the idea is he was supposed to save the HBCUs because nobody else has the ability to do what they need to do for the HBCUs. Deion Sanders, it's his fault that the HBCUs can no longer rise up because he left. Because before him, we couldn't do anything. It's the same mindset. It's the same oppressed, victimized, I can't do nothing, I can't save me mindset, still sitting back, waiting on somebody to save us. I think that's another reason why we gravitate toward religion so much is a lot of black people are really expecting somebody to come back and save us. Judgment Day, Judgment Day, it's the end times. I'm like, so it's a mass shooter on top of a building, shoot 12 people, and it's end times. But it went end times of World War II.
Shit, they better read Tragedy and Hope.
I'm just saying,
find out who's in charge of those motherfuckers.
But that show you the level of thought process people are not putting into this, and the level of emotion, and just going off of automation that we're doing, just repeating stuff. We're total automatons out here, just repeating stuff because black people really believe that the stuff now, sickness, the end time. Forget the 2 world wars that didn't happen. Forget slavery. Forget all the other messed up stuff that didn't happen in the world. It's end times now because you scared now. No, stop being afraid. Like Pat said earlier, we got to stop being soft and we got to learn to stand up for ourselves. We got to really read this stuff and learn to stand up. Whatever Nat Turner was reading, that's what you need to read. Don't read nothing else that Nat Turner wasn't reading. And you need to read the same way Nat Turner read it. Because the way you doing it ain't working.
No, I mean, morally speaking, we better think about our survival and the moral right to live on and to press on and the moral right to actually have a foot or have something to do with that. This whole notion of, praying for plagues or this, that, and the other. We just lived through one. You know what I'm saying? This whole concept of, us being in position. And honestly, if you're going to go back to that particular situation in 2020, is the perfect time for us to actually be the answer to all our prayers. And we chose to sit back and make TikTok videos, chose to sit back and make little reels. We chose to sit back and just, play games. And we chose to sit back and watch versus competitions instead of actually taking that time when the world stood still and everybody was facing a global alignment, doing what their God told them to do. We did nothing of any substance. And now we're sitting here behind. And if anybody's paying attention to the tea leaves, it might be the end of days for us if we don't get our shit together.
Don't sit here and tell me nothing about America gonna fall. Because damn it, we falling right along with
them. They catch the cold,
so
we catch
stop,
the flu.
Stop talking about America falling. Because if America fall, what the hell that mean for black folk? Because we're 100% dependent upon America.
Man. All right, Joe. Fuck it, I'm out. I can't even listen to no more of this.
Hey, man. We ain't had nothing else to say about that anyway. You see Pat face. Shit. Hey, man. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carlton Jones. Let's stop lying to ourselves. See y'all next time.